So hello and welcome back to episode 11 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. Me, Barry Doyle, I'm back with Andrew Blair-White for an 11th week.
Yeah, thanks. Very good to be back on for week 11. Hope everyone's enjoying this series down in the comments. We've gotten some great feedback, so hopefully we can continue this on now in the last 6 or 7 weeks to Cheltenham. Look, I thought there was some decent enough performances. You could have named a fair few. I'm going to head to Haydock for mine, but not probably the one that people are going to think in Royal Pagaille. I just thought probably the ride of the weekend came from Sean Quinlan on Navajo Pass. A little tricky three-runner race in that new one hurdle. I know he's no champion hurdle horse or anything, but he had no right to beat Bouverdare, giving him weight. He booked out, made the running, catch me if you can, and Bouverdare couldn't do it. He travelled into the race beautifully, Bouverdare, but he couldn't pick up when needs be. So probably the best performance from a race riding perspective, and also just taking the bull by the horns. Probably a smaller, obviously a smaller trainer, a northern trainer in Don McCain. And a horse that maybe shouldn't have won a race but has gone and done so. So I thought that was shrewd placing and a very good piece of jockeymanship from Sean Quinlan.
My performance of the week, Andrew, you went to Haydock. Mine is less glamorous. I went to Taunton. And actually the bumper in Taunton, Mayhem Mia, listen, she raced about 10 wide the whole way around. I'm not sure 10 wide. That might be an exaggeration. But she raced very, very wide. She was keen early in the race. There was a horse, actually, Dresher, as we know, won at Ascot, and we'll talk about him. But a half sister to Dresher was well supported, and I'm not sure the overall strength of the bumper, but I thought, like, we saw Eileen Dover, a nice mare, winning the previous weekend. But this horse, I think, might be one maybe for the entry mares bumper. Definitely one. Connections, look, Chris Honor trains and would be renowned for bumper horses. By Authorised, it's a 4-year-old, and I do think they'll probably avoid. She might have one more run. I think the horse Cockalicket, trained by Anthony Honeyball, won this race last year, and she might follow a similar path and have another run before entry. Obviously avoid Cheltenham, and I think she might be one. I was quite smart. I thought she was quite smart the way she quickened away, and Mike Vince actually was down on track, and I think Mike quite liked her as well. So Mayhem Mia, definitely one for the tracker. But listen, we're going to talk about, speaking about Mike Vince, he put up First Flow on the podcast last Thursday, and I thought he was full value for the win, to be fair. What did you make of the race?
Yeah, super performance from First Flow, and a great piece of riding from David Bass as well. He obviously went and sent him upsides, Politologue down the back, and kind of upset Politologue in the process. Politologue's jumping kind of, for his standards, for his usual high standards, his jumping slightly fell apart down the back. He made a few uncharacteristic mistakes. I thought he was full value for the win. The only thing going forward with this horse is that all of his best performances are on bottomless ground. And I know Kim Bailey has come out and said that before, that the horse needs heavy ground. And I must say, I know people are getting a little bit jumpy about him for the Champion Chase, but I backed him 2 starts back at Wetherby on the 27th of December when he won the 2-mile handicap chase there, and David Bass lifted him over the line. That form alone is nowhere near Champion Chase standards. So I do understand it was a very good performance, but it would need to come up a bog at Cheltenham, I think, for this horse to really have a chance of winning a Champion Chase.
Since the change of tactics with Politologue, I'm not sure he's come across a horse to eyeball him halfway down the back and put pressure, as you say, on him. And in fairness, he was absolutely travelling all over Politologue down the back. But as you say, soft ground the key, and nothing getting near Shaka and Poursois. I think we probably both agree with that. But we'll go back up to Haydock, Andrew, because this horse has options now. Royal Pagaille, Venetia Williams and Rich Ritchie, and it was a serious performance up top weight. Now, I can't help but be, I suppose, impressed. But we saw Copperhead win a big race last year on bottomless ground, not too far away from the Cheltenham Festival. He came from the handicap ranks as well. And, horses like Acapella Bourgeois, who was fancied for an RSA after big performances on bottomless ground again. For me, it's not RSA form. Well, I know they have Monkfish there already. For me, people are talking about a Gold Cup on Royal Pagaille. I couldn't have that at all, personally.
No, I completely agree with you there. Look, you put in any of those Gold Cup horses into a Peter Marsh as well, It was one of the worst represented Peter Marshes I've seen in a long old time, and the 11-4 second favourites unseated down the back. I think if you throw any of those Delta Works, Santini's into a Peter Marsh of 156 against those opponents, you'd be disappointed if they didn't do what that horse did. Look, he's a rapidly improving horse. I took him on at the weekend, wrongly so. I'd hold my hands up to that, but I can't have this Gold Cup claims with him whatsoever. I must say, stick to novice company. He's obviously doing quite well there. Whether they want to run him against Monkfish, probably not. Maybe the National Hunt Chase, I don't know. But I don't. They may well run in a Gold Cup because that's maybe the option they'll go down. But I wouldn't be backing them, that's for sure.
I have to agree with you. And look, just again, like we saw with First Flow, the ground was absolutely 10 times worse at Haydock. And and I'd be with you. Like he wouldn't interest me no matter what race he goes for. Being honest, I'd probably be likely to take him on. In fact, just the one thing I would say about him as well is jumping. I know they were talking about it before the race that he's a French style of jumping and he's very low, but he's not the best jumper in the world either. A faster run race and in a better race is I'd just be a little bit worried there. The other race I wanted to talk about, Andrew, was Dresher. Now this horse was in my 20 to follow before the start of the season, and I thought he was impressive. He absolutely put them to the sword. His jumping, it was good. But on the front end that seemed to suit him, and I would think that Back for the Ascot Chase would be the likely target for him, and wouldn't totally discount him.
No, I don't think you could. I think he can be upgraded as well, considering he had a 40-1 chance harrying him all the way as well. Considering the previous time he won at Ascot, he got a relatively uncontested lead when he beat Itchy Feet and Caribbean Boy. I thought it was a plenty impressive performance. He still looks, though, a work in progress, so I'm not sure. He'd be the type of horse I wouldn't mind backing for the Ascot Chase maybe in 13 months' time. I'm not sure I might back him next month if he ran in the race. Just something that he still needs to learn a little bit. He looks a little bit of a complicated ride. Mick Fitzgerald did a very good analysis piece on At the Races this morning about how he was constantly changing his legs going into fences and stuff like that, just a sign of greenness and inexperience. And I know he is 7 years old, but he still probably needs to become a man in Grade 1 level, I suspect. And maybe that's something we'll see down the line. I think he's a fine horse. Maybe not the Ascot Chase this year for me, but the Ascot Chase next year, you'd never know.
One of my favourite meetings of the year was on my doorstep now, Andrew Blair-White, the Tayes days, and with a bit of a backlog of Irish racing. But this is, I suppose, one race I wanted to hone in on. It comes a little bit too early for our podcast on Thursday. Was there anything maybe that was, I suppose, taking your fancy at an early stage?
Yeah, hard race to know, because you never know with these Gordon Elliott horses, which is something going to be off on the day. Is Kim Muir's down the line, or Ultima's down the line, with the likes of Farkless, Cocoa Beach, Run Wild Fred, all very similar profiles. I was very shocked actually to see Kashari get an entry in this. I was having him down as a Coral Cup horse myself. I almost put him up on the podcast 2 weeks ago for the Coral Cup. That looks a bit sketchy now.
Would you be worried about the bounce factor, Andrew Blair-White? He's off for a while.
Yeah, potentially. So I just thought Mullins sometimes runs a few high-class horses in the Coral Cup of near enough top weight. I thought he might be interesting. But the one I'd give a chance to if he sneaks in here is the big dog of Peter Fahey's. This horse was a good novice hurdler a couple of seasons back. He went down by a head to Castlebourne West in a Leopardstown maiden hurdle. I remember being there. And obviously Castlebourne West has won the Paddy Power this year. His 3 runs over fences so far this year. He unseated once, but 2 solid thirds other than that. Last time behind Longhouse Poet and Run Wild Fred, who I both think those 2 horses ahead of him have a big handicap in them at some stage themselves. And wouldn't surprise me if he just snuck in here off near enough bottom weight, 16-1 or so, mightn't be the worst each way price.
Yeah, Andrew, I suppose the one I like in here is Discordantly. I think he's been targeted at this race. I fancied him actually for the Tri-Town, and he ran a pretty good race in that. He's only a 7-year-old, ran okay again at Christmas, but I do think there's a big one in him. Off 141 here, heavier the ground, I think the better for this horse. He won at Galway already this season, and speaking of Paddy Kennedy earlier this year on the podcast, he did mention that this was the target for him. So 14-1, I do think there's a big one in him. I expect him to run well. He has the right type of profile for the race. And I'd be keen on him each way, Discordantly at 14-1. But as you say, Gordon Elliott has many in here. Like we've mentioned a lot of them on this show already. Cocoa Beach, Run Wild, Fred Farklas, all likely to probably be targeted at Cheltenham handicaps. One of them might go and win here, but I couldn't be trusting it personally. And I think Discordantly and even your selection probably represent more solid value for this race, especially given the ground. Andrew, is there anything else, I suppose, did you like midweek this side of the Irish Sea?
Well, I'm very intrigued to hopefully see Allaho at Thurles. It was a shame. Obviously, Thurles' racing yesterday was postponed to Wednesday now. He's a horse that's a little bit of a cliff horse for myself, but I do quite like him for the Ryanair. And if he's going to win a Ryanair, he simply has to win. If the decks are exactly the same as they were on Sunday, he'd need to be winning that race to have a chance of winning the Ryanair.
I was interested in Ellie May. Now, I know Ronan Groom is a big fan of this horse. She is going in against the Geldings here. She obviously receives plenty of weight from the top one there, Battle Over Doyen. Yeah, no, I'm interested to see how she runs. I'm not saying she's going to go and win the race, but definitely one I think that potentially maybe for the Mayor's Chase on the last day of Cheltenham, that's Ellie May. She was certainly in my radar for that, and I'm interested to see how she runs. Allaho, Andrew, I hate to tell you, just give up. He probably goes and wins this, but I've backed him enough times now to know to leave him alone. But I think it's one more trip. He must be joining the Windsor Avenue Club with you, is he?
Don't start me on Windsor Avenue.
Andrew Blair-White, we do it all the time. We're going to run through our selections. Just a quick update. Not much, I suppose, has changed. But for people that haven't been tuning into the show, and this is, of course, episode 11. So go back and have a look at the other 10 episodes. But we'll explain now, what selections we've put up to date. And before I mention my number one, I see he's entered this weekend against Siskin. We've been talking, he's been embarrassing me as I've gone through the selections. Eldorado Allen, I wonder how he runs. Probably doesn't turn over Siskin. But we'll let you fire away on your selection so far.
Yep. It started off with Nasa Lamb back in November at 25-1 for the Triumph Hurdle. I think he's currently 16-1. I think he's got an entry for the Triumph Hurdle trial at Cheltenham on Saturday. I'd like to see him running that and potentially win. If he did, he'd shorten up a bit. Wide receiver 25s, any race. I see he's not entered in a handicap at the Dublin Racing Festival. He's entered in the 2 Grade 1s, which I'm a little bit dubious about because I want him to run in the Martin Pipe. But that being said, I do have any race. So if he suddenly remarkably becomes a Grade 1 horse, I do have him covered. Chacun Pour Soi 9-2. Look, it was 9-2 back in December or something. Didn't look a brilliant price, but a lot of his challengers are probably tripping each other over, so he looks stronger and stronger by the day. Latest exhibition 16-1 for the RSA. Look, rock solid each way chance. Delvino and Dusart both are gone. Both at 12-1 for their races. Not very good. Brave Man's Game, probably the best value one I put up because I put him up the day before the Challow at 16s. I think he's now.
Can I stop you there, Andrew?
Yep.
Just for a bit of interaction. You mentioned Brave Man's Game. Soaring Glory off 133 in the Betfair Hurdle. How far? He's the only horse to have beaten Brave Man's Game. Am I right this season? Obviously, it was over a shorter trip, but this horse is well handicapped, I think.
Oh, big time! Yeah, no, he seemingly has a fair bit in hand of 133. I know we said actually before Christmas we were surprised he didn't run in that Betfair Exchange Hurdle at Ascot when he ran in the Grade 2 instead. But I think the Betfair Hurdle's now been the plan, and you'd have to think he's pretty well in off 133.
But even to get to Cheltenham, he's going to have to win off that mark. I mean, even to qualify for something like a county hurdle, if they decided to go down the handicap route, personally, be on my radar for a Supreme, a late entry into the Supreme. If he was to go and win this, he'd have to hack up now. But he's I wouldn't rule him out. But go on, continue with your selections.
Yeah, no. So Brave Man's Game. Look, he's around 4-1 now. He's got a chance. Run Wild Fred 10-1 any race. has a chance potentially in a Kim Muir. Came to pass at 12-1 for the Hunter's Chase. Looks a solid enough bet, I'd have thought. And last week, Aramax at 20-1 for the Grand Annual to take on Antukas. I see he's been nibbled at, as has Antukas. I think we've now got the second and third in the betting. And considering Sky Pirate is the favourite and he's unlikely to run in the race, I think we might have the favourite and the second favourite on the day between the two of us. And my one wild card I've used so far was Time Hill at 5-1. That was I think 2 days before the long walk at Ascot. I thought he might win that. He came second, obviously. So I think 4-1, 9-2. I think he's got a rock solid chance.
Is Andrew Blair-White going to roll the cannons and fire a few wild cards before the Dublin Racing Festival? Or is he going to wait till after? We'll have to wait until a couple of minutes' time. But no, look, you mentioned there, we obviously mentioned Soaring Glory. I definitely think, I know this is a Cheltenham Ante-Post show, but in terms of Ante-Post bets, I think he's available at 14-1. I saw for the Betfair Hurdle, and it looks the likely option for him. Andrew Blair-White, I'll rattle through mine. Eldorado Allen, he is entered in the Grade 2 at Doncaster this weekend. I'm not sure about that. He's 20-1 for the Arkle, or sorry, he was 20-1. He's probably about 33s now, or 50s. But I have him at 20-1 for the Arkle. Mac Fabulous, a horse I suppose I like an awful lot. Shaped like an on-stair against Tyne Hill and Paisley Park, and I'd be surprised if he showed up at Cheltenham Saintry Hurdle. Probably likely for him. Appreciated. I'm still not giving up hope. I see Tony Mullins talking about Concertista maybe going to the Champion Hurdle, or he was tipping her up in that race. So we know that Willie can change his mind last minute. 12-1 for the Ballymore. I have him in there. You know, if he goes to if he happened to go for that race, I think that's an absolutely super price. Appreciated. Champ. He's not running this weekend in the Cotswolds Chase, which doesn't really surprise me because he's form at Newbury, and it might be an easier task maybe to go to Newbury to have a prep run for the Gold Cup, and it's okay. I suppose Energumene, that's a big fancy of mine, obviously. I think he represents a great each way bet now for the Arkle, for anyone that still wants to get involved at 6-1. I put him up any race because he did have options. He's 10-1. I think that's rock solid. Kescon Risk, I'm hoping he improves. He is entered up in the Grade 1 at the Dublin Racing Festival. I'm not sure Joseph O'Brien's horses ran so well over the Christmas period, so I'll be expecting him to improve. He ran a good race behind Appreciated, but hopefully there's some progression in there. And 25-1 might not be the worst value in the world after the Dublin Racing Festival. Concertista, 9-2 for the Mayor's Hurdle. That's absolutely rock solid. Antukas, 25-1. He's been well supported for the Grand Annual. We must mention that race has been changed now to the Tuesday. Sorry, not to the Tuesday, to the Wednesday, to my knowledge. Used to be obviously run on the Friday. And Andrew Blair-White, what about Antukas versus Aramax over the last 3 lengths in front of the field? A ding-dong battle up the hill. Who would you fancy? I suppose Antukas has been second a fair few times.
Depends which cap is on which horse.
Autumn Evening, 40-1 for the Boodles. I'm quietly confident that this horse is going to line up in the race. He won't be 40-1 on the day. I think this horse is going to go for the Boodles. I think that's definitely one I'm quite happy on that at 40-1, to be honest. Ramillies at 14-1 for the Champion Bumper. Willie has a nice few bumper horses, to be fair. I think this could be the best one of them at 14-1. And I suppose I've played 2 wild cards so far. Monkfish was played at 3-1. I saw 10-1. I saw 12-1 chalked up for the Gold Cup 2022. That might have been a better bet, Andrew Blair-White. I'd never back that far out, but 3-1 for this RSA Chase. I like that an awful lot. She wears it well, sadly. I don't think it's going to make Cheltenham. She was my other wild card at 6-1. But drum roll, Andrew Blair-White, your selection for week 11.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I thought for a second there you might have been stealing it off me because it's a horse that you've mentioned earlier in today's episode, and she's running against Allaho on Wednesday, and it is Ellie May for the Mayor's Chase at 12-1. She's 14-1 with Bet365, but that's only a singular bookie. So she's 12-1 with William Hill and 14s with Bet365. So I'll take 12s. As you were almost pointing it out, I think she's got an outstanding chance. I know Ronan likes her an awful lot. She's unbeaten over fences. And to be honest, if she comes second or third behind Allaho, I think she becomes a 6-7 to 1 shot. She's one of the very few mares in the Mares Chase betting that's not a novice as well. And you look at Colreevy, her better form does tend to be right-handed. Dame de Compagnie, very inexperienced. I don't think Benny's going to run in the race. Put the Kettle On's going to go to the Champion Chase. And going against Willie Mullins in these mares races seems stupid to really do so. So I think Ellie May will run in the race. If she runs well at Thurles on Wednesday, she'll be an awful lot shorter. So I'm keen to get the bet in now. And I think 12 to 1's a pretty good price.
Interesting, Andrew Blair-White. Well, sticking with mares and sticking with Irish racing, my selection for this week, of course, I just mentioned She Wears It Well was my wild card, but I'm going to have to find a replacement, aren't I? For the mares novice hurdle. And the Solarina is at Fairyhouse this weekend. And a horse, Andrew, that I've been trying to hold myself back from speaking about because I had She Wears It Well, but I was fearing this horse, even if She Wears It Well did run. That's Royal Kahala for Peter Fatty. I thought she was mighty the last day, and Andrew, she's progressive. She's won 3 races now on the bounce. Since the start of November. She has form at Fairyhouse, kind of reminiscent of Honeysuckle, the way she's taken a liking to Fairyhouse, but she's a big imposing mare. And I would have one question mark, and that's, I suppose, we haven't seen her win on good ground yet. Now, look, good to soft, I'm sure will be fine. She's by Fleming's Fort. I think this horse is I think she is quite good. Galloway's, which is now the favourite for the Mares Novice, she's probably likely to run against her on Saturday at Fairyhouse. But I'd take a chance at 8 to 1. There's still 8 to 1 available with 2 firms on Roy Kahala, and I don't think we'll see anything like that if she's to go and back up and even improve. I mean, she came home in the bridle. She got stuck in a pocket the last day. The form, I'm not sure what you think of the form. You probably didn't think Delvino ran up the scratch, but Hook Up had decent form earlier this season. I mean, so I think the form is good, and I think she won as she liked. She could have won. She won doing handstands, Andrew Blair-White. Andrew, I'm going to surprise you because I'm putting a wild card in before the Dublin Racing Festival.
You're a man with bigger balls than me, Barry.
Yeah, I have to play it like this because I think the prices, Andrew, look, I'm taking a chance that I mightn't have a wild card shot after the Dublin Racing. I get that. I am taking a bit of a chance, but this is a horse at a price that I think I have to get him into team. I am covering my options again because I've put up Champ for the Gold Cup, but I put up Aplutard to win at Leopardstown in the Savills Chase, and he didn't disappoint me, and I'm going to stay loyal to him. And he's the one horse in training at Aplutard that's beaten Shaka and Poursois, a strong staying 2-miler that's new now, I suppose, found a new lease of life. He's got up to a mark of 170, which puts him bang there on ratings at Aplutard. And look, Manella Endo, he's coming into the old Hennessy at Leopardstown, or the Irish Gold Cup. He's coming into that race now off the back of a fall, and were he to disappoint, is there going to be more support for Aplutard in the coming week or 2 weeks? I wouldn't be surprised. And 9 to 1, Andrew Blair-White, I think it's a very solid wild card at this stage because we know he's going to the race. And, very similar profile to Sizing John, and I back Sizing John for the Gold Cup. A 2-miler that was unexposed going into Leopardstown at Christmas, and didn't disappoint, and unexposed over the trip and going for the race. Yeah, no, I have to get him in the team at 9 to 1. And as you said, bigger balls than you, Andrew Blair-White.
Well, I'm playing the long game on mine, but two nice selections. I would also say, I reckon with Royal Kahala, if Gypsy Island had done what Royal Kahala has done this year, Gypsy Island would be 5 to 2 for the Mares Novice currently, and Royal Kahala's 8 to 1. I think she's a very, very good mare.